This is a case involved with love, friendship, and betrayal. The cases happened one after another with twists and turns. More than one family was destroyed in this tragedy. In June 2013, Chen Fansheng, the owner of a pig farm in Weifang City, found that nearly 100 pigs he raised had died strangely, so he immediately called the police. Then the investigators checked the dead pigs and found a toxic component called fluoroacetamide in the dead pigs. It was obvious that the pigs were poisoned to death by someone, but what puzzled the police was that it's almost impossible for nearly 100 pigs to be poisoned overnight without being discovered. The owner of the pig farm, Chen, said that he didn't see anyone come in last night, and there was a high wall around the pig farm, the gate was locked, and there was no sign of climbing on the wall. Besides, there were 5 watchdogs in the yard, and they didn't make any sound last night. If someone really sneaked into the pig farm to poison, how did he get in? What's more strange is that the camera of the pig farm was broken, and what happened last night wasn't recorded by the camera. During the in-depth investigation by the police, it was found that Chen had shown some unusual behaviors. Usually, victims are very cooperative with the police and provide as many clues as they can. However, Chen, who suffered huge losses and reported to the police, was hesitant to answer the police's questions and was reluctant to tell them more details. Could he be connected to the death of these pigs? Chen was in his 50s. In 2008, he got a loan from the bank to build this pig farm. This business had been going really well, and the income was considerable until the day most of his pigs died. Due to Chen's abnormal reactions, the police decided to investigate him first. During the investigation of his personal information, the police learned that a few days before the incident, he had a violent conflict with Li Shen, who lived in the same village. This is the footage of when the police came to respond. The man with blood on his body is Zhou Dachuan, Li's cousin. According to him, Chen and Li had a conflict that day. Chen went to Li's house with a knife, and the two got into a fight. During the fight, Chen hurt Wang, Li's wife, accidentally, who was trying to stop the fight. Wang was later sent to the hospital. Then, the police found Wang, who was in the hospital for treatment, to inquire about the situation on that day. During the conflict, she suffered head injuries and still had lingering fears about it. It seems that there should be a deep grudge between Chen and Li, which is why Chen took a knife to Li's house. After investigating the social relations between the two, the police found that Chen and Li were good friends at first. They met when they got their cars repaired at a service station and quickly became good friends. At that time, Li had a job on minimum wage and struggled to make ends meet. Chen thought that Li was not afraid of hard work and should be able to run a successful pig farm. So he taught Li to raise pigs, provided him with technical support, and even lent him money for the initial fund. Chen wasn't wrong. Li indeed had some talent for doing this. He picked up technologies for raising pigs really fast and started to turn a profit. Because of this, Li was very grateful to Chen. They also often hung out together and became even closer. Later, in order to be near each other, they bought houses in the same neighborhood and became neighbors. Moreover, when Chen and his wife quarreled, it was always Li and his wife who mediated. But how did they go from close friends to enemies? The police found through interviews that the reason for the two to turn against each other was because of something said by Li's son. One day, Li's 7-year-old son said to Li that Uncle Chen gave him money every time he came to their home and asked him to buy snacks with it and play outside. Li's son's words made Li suspicious. Why does Chen often come to my home when I'm not around, and why does he want to send my son away every time? To verify his suspicion, one day Lee told his wife that he needed to run errands and would come back late. Before leaving home, he placed a mobile phone under the bed and set it to record. A few hours later, Lee came home and was told by his son that Uncle Chen had just been there. So he took out the phone from under the bed and turned on the recording. The sound of his wife having sex with Chen came out. Lee couldn't accept that his wife cheated on him with his best friend and divorced her the next day after a big fight. After the divorce, Wang moved out and Lee lived with their son. However, their son often cried and wanted his mom to live with them just like before. At the same time, Lee's family and friends advised him to give Lee another chance. Plus, Wang also always hoped that Lee could take her back. So finally, Lee chose to get back together with Wang, and the two lived together again. However, what Lee didn't expect was that one day, not long after Wang moved back, Chen came to their home with a knife, saying he wanted to take Wang away and asked Wang to live with him. He even threatened Lee that if he didn't let Wang go, he would kill him. This is why Lee and Chen fought at that time. Therefore, the police believed that due to this conflict between them, Lee hated Chen and poisoned his pigs. At this time, another case occurred before the poisoning case was solved. Just when the police wanted to focus on investigating the suspect Lee, he reported that his car was stolen. According to the vehicle information provided by Lee, the police quickly found the stolen car, but the car had been burned beyond recognition. Since the car was stolen and burned, it was clear that the thief didn't steal it for money, but for revenge. Given Lee's relationship with Chen, the police's first reaction was that Lee's car was burned by Chen. However, just when the police wanted to contact Chen for questioning, Chen disappeared. His phone was not answered, and his family didn't know where he was. The police also found that Wang, who had just gotten back together with Lee, disappeared as well. Could they have eloped? The police speculated that Chen might have burned Lee's car as retaliation and then left with Wang. But in the subsequent investigation, the police found that the case was more complicated than they thought. By checking the surveillance video near the scene where Lee's car was burned, the police found surprisingly that Lee showed up near the scene on the day his car was burned. So the police found him to understand the situation, but he denied the fact of appearing near the scene and insisted that he had not been there. He also said that he had parked his car on the driveway and it was stolen there. It can be seen that Lee was definitely lying. Judging from all these things that happened, it is likely that Chen poisoned his own pigs and blamed it on Lee. When Lee learned about it, he followed suit, setting fire to his own car and blaming it on Chen. Just as the police were investigating the car burning case, they suddenly received a call from Chen's daughter, saying that her father's car had also been burned. She said that Chen hadn't returned home since the day he drove away from home and had not answered his phone. Later, she found Chen's car, but found it had been burned and Chen was missing. The case became more confusing. Where did Chen go? Since Lee told the police that Chen and Wang eloped, the police decided to find out the whereabouts of Chen and Wang in order to verify Lee's statement. Soon, the police found their activity track. The night before they disappeared, they had checked in at an inn. The woman in the video was Lee's wife, Wang. They only stayed for one night and left the next day. Then, the police checked their travel information and credit card transaction records and finally found Wang in a bar near the place where Lee's car was burned. It turned out that she found a job here and had concealed her situation to escape her family. However, she said that she had never seen Chen again after they separated at the inn and didn't know where he went. Hearing this, the police had a bad feeling about it. Coupled with the lies Lee had told them before, they felt that Lee must be hiding something from them. To find out the truth of the matter, the police conducted further detailed examinations on the burned cars of Chen and Lee. Finally, a major clue emerged. Although their cars were burned in two different places, they both had obvious signs of impact before being burned. From the impact marks, it was clear that the two cars had collided with each other. This suggests that Chen and Lee had met before the incident and may even have had conflicts. Then the police continued investigating the movements of Lee, the only suspect over this period, and had discovered a strange thing. Before the death of the pigs at the pig farm, Li's car frequently followed a truck, which was Chen's truck for transporting feed. As Li and Chen had both been in the pig farming industry for many years, Li was familiar with Chen's feed loading locations and transportation routes. If Li had put poison into the feed during the transportation process, it would explain why no one broke into Chen's pig farm and the pigs died mysteriously. With the evidence, the police arrested Li. He knew that the matter had been exposed and quickly admitted that he had poisoned Chen's pigs and also confessed that he had killed Chen. Li said that he and his cousin Joe discovered Wang and Chen secretly dating in a hotel, so they rushed there. When Chen came out of the hotel and tried to drive away, Li drove his car and stopped Chen's car. Then, Li and Joe took sticks out of the car and broke the window glass of Chen's car. Afterward, they dragged Chen out of the car and beat him up. As a result, Chen was beaten to death. Looking at how Chen stopped breathing, Li and Joe finally felt satisfied. However, the two found that there was a lot of blood on both cars, so Li came up with a plan to destroy the evidence. Li bought a bucket of gasoline from the gas station and burned Chen's car. At the same time, in order to divert the police's attention and create a false impression, he drove his car to another place and burned it as well. After being arrested, Li regretted his actions. He didn't understand why his wife wanted to get back with him and still went out with Chen. Don't mention that he had devoted himself to the family over these years. He had slaved away to offer his wife and son a better life, but didn't expect to end up like this. Finally, Li was sentenced to death with a 2-year reprieve for intentional homicide, and Joe was sentenced to life imprisonment.